Hello everyone. So it's not an ideal situation, but I am recording today's lesson. Unfortunately, I've had to go home because of a potential case of COVID. So I'm going to paste this into Microsoft Teams, and I'll be putting any links to any handouts or quizzes through Teams as well. If you're aware of any students that don't have Teams, I'm going to try and add them over the next few days, but it will be a massive favour to me maybe if you kind of hand on the information. But I will be giving this to anyone who's covering my classes or so on and so forth. But this is what the remote lessons are going to look like anyway, but unfortunately I'm having to do it for my actual taught session today, so apologies for that. What we're going to be taking a look at today is continuing from our introduction from last week. I'm going to have a little starter activity on the board while you're getting settled. We had a little look in GCSE at word classes initially last week. So inside your textbooks, you should have been let into the classroom to get those. You should have had the little drawing we did last week on word classes. So what I want you to do, I'll give you a few minutes to do it, is I want you to take a look at the words in red on the presentation. And just in your notebook, I want you to jot down which word class you think it is. Do you think it's an adjective, an adverb? We had loads of different types of nouns, if you remember rightly. So could it be, I don't know, pronoun, abstract noun? So I want you to scribble down what you think they are. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that, and I'll let you crack on with that. My little dog thinks I'm crazy up here because he can hear me talk and he thinks I'm losing my mind. The good thing is with the function of this, you can pause this video at any time. It's going to be posted on YouTube, and if I'm going a little bit quick, there's probably a good chance that the actual recorded part of this session doesn't last the entire hour and a half, but there's going to be an hour and a half worth of activities. So if I'm moving forward too quickly, you can always pause it, complete that and move on. Also, don't worry about feedback and questioning. Any questions you have about the session, you can post up onto Microsoft Teams. I'm in the process of adding you all to that now. It's not ideal that we've had to do a remote session so soon, because I know some of the groups have had issues getting onto Teams. If that's the case, go to your vocational tutor, tell them that it's quite important that you get logged in to Teams for my sessions. So I'll just let you crack on with that, okay? Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at those word classes up on the board. So if you take a little look at the top one there, awkwardly, what do you think that is? Just mark your own work as we go. So awkwardly, we had a look at this last week, that would be an adverb, okay? And there's a couple of letters at the end, isn't there, that tells us that it's an adverb. It's that ly at the end. Now that doesn't mean, remember, that all adverbs end with an ly, but it's a really good rule of thumb to aim at. If it ends with an ly, fantastic. Also, if you take a little look, and I'll just put my mouse towards it, look at what's being described. We've got danced there. We know that danced is a doing word, it's a verb, so that's being added on to the verb, okay? So on to the next one, we've got Joe thought about his future. What would thinking be, or thought? You should have got an answer down for that. So thought, in that case, would be a verb, okay? So we've got thought, it's a doing word. Remember, it's also a thinking and a being word as well. So like, let's use that adverb. Could we add an adverb onto thought? Joe thought carefully. There's that ly again, okay? Next one along, a lot of people didn't know this last week in a lot of my sessions when we were talking about it. Taylor had fell out of love. So that word love, what's that going to be? Have a little look at your answer. So love in this case is going to be a noun. We've named something, but you can't pick up love and look at it, can you? Okay, it's like a thought or emotion or feeling, but we've still named something, so it would be an abstract noun. So give yourself a tick if you've got abstract noun. Next one down, Jessie was shaking, so our word shaking, that's going to be a verb as well, just like thought. There's an action there, it's a doing word. Then coming down, hopefully you're starting to get the pattern now with the adverbs, but suddenly with that ly at the end, that would be an adverb, so well done if you've got that. And then underneath we've got Paul is lost. Paul there, yep, something's being named or someone's being named. In that case, there's a capital letter there, so you're looking at it being a proper noun if you've been writing down your classifications of nouns as well. So on to the next, what is wrong with you? I know I said this last week, but you, personal pronouns, are so important to your paper too, because you get pronouns in mostly every English paper. It's a really good word class to get you marks for language, okay? We've got Sandy's unkempt hair. Now, I purposely put in a little bit of an unusual word there to kind of throw you off, because what you can do is you can look at the sentence and take a look at what it's next to. So you've got hair. This word here, unkempt, seems to be describing this, okay? So hopefully you can remember verbs go with adverbs. Which ones describe nouns? They're your adjectives. We call them adjectives because we add them on. Remember I said last week, I wish they were called adnouns because it'll just make my life easier, yeah? But they're called adjectives. And on to our final one, beneath, we've got a preposition there. I put that on there. It's not a word class that we really talk about very often. I just want you to focus on getting those main word classes. So your adjectives, your nouns, different classifications if possible. So abstract nouns are great to know. And then we want to be looking at your verbs and adverbs. If you can get those down, it's a fantastic way to write about language when we get to that side of the paper in a couple of months. Okay? So what we're looking at today, we're doing transactional writing. I talked about transactional writing being the first thing that we attempt because it's a quarter of your grade. So if you can get this question locked down, it's a really good way to get like a head start on your on getting your grade 4 basically. So transactional writing, we're going to explain today what it is. It comes in loads of different forms, and we've got loads of different strategies we use when we're attempting a piece of transactional writing as well. So today's objectives, we are going to identify appropriate language and structure to suit type, audience and purpose. Okay, so we're going to talk about tapping a text. Okay, how do you tap a text, and is it easy? We're going to have a look today. We're also going to develop your awareness of dual coding. Dual coding is going to be quite interesting to do from home here. I'm probably going to get off a piece of paper here and draw it on the piece of paper for you. It's a really useful technique that even I use for memorizing things. I started using it with my learners last year and I was surprised how much of an impact it had, okay? But it's a really simple activity. We're also going to take a look at effectively planning and structuring a strong argument. So that's our transactional writing. Using language features, and this is essential, that suit our purpose, because different purposes need different language features. We're also going to look to compose a piece of transactional writing as well. So in the actual taught session this week that I'm having to do from home, we were going to do a lot of prep, a lot of discussion about a certain topic and how to structure it, and then the remote learning was going to be more actually developing that piece of transactional writing. So hopefully with this format you'll be able to still feel fully comfortable that you'll be able to approach that piece of writing as well. Okay. So we've just got a couple of fresher questions. These are based on last week, so you may struggle a bit if you weren't here last week, but most people should have been, okay? So in your book, just as a refresher, I know I've been talking a lot about word classes, but we did those last week, didn't we? What word class would furious be? The second one, what percentage of your grade, excuse me, is paper 2, okay? So it's not a 50-50 split between paper 1 and paper 2, but what is it? Third question, how much extra will you earn over your lifetime if you had a grade 4 above in English and maths? We did an activity for this last week and I heard all the weird and wonderful things you were spending your money on. I think 600,000 chicken nuggets was definitely my favourite so far. Oh man, I might give that away. Do the maths. Also question 4, try to name 3 language features. And then 5, add the apostrophes into the following sentence, okay? So have a little go at those. I'll give you a few minutes. Hopefully my dog doesn't jump up and say hello at any point, but if he does, he's called Buster. Not sure if I've got the lighting correct in this room at the moment. I will do it at some point though, because I'm going to be doing a lot more of these throughout the year. So we've got your refreshers. Like I say, if I'm moving too quick, don't worry about it. You can always pause the video. So the first one, furious. Yep, that would come under if you've got it as an adjective, okay? So the man, we've named the man is furious. We've described him as furious, which is an adjective. Question 2, what percentage of your grade is paper 2? So it's not a 50-50 split. Paper 2 is 60% of your entire grade, okay? So it shows to have a good understanding of paper 2 is essential. And I know a lot of people, we went into lockdown during the pandemic, and most people have done paper 1, so the decision's been made to start with paper 2, which I think is a quite good one, okay? Question 3, how much extra money will you earn over your lifetime? That's 150 grand over your lifetime. So I mean, that data as well is probably a couple of years old. I wouldn't be surprised if it's gone up. So you earn 15% more over your lifetime on average with your grade 4 in English and Maths, but I'll stop talking about money now. I promise I'm not completely materialistic. Question 4, language features. Well, we're going to be looking at a few language features today. We're going to do some dual coding. I'm going to teach you about something called the persuader. So you're going to have quite a large amount of language features revised in your head, hopefully, over the next couple of weeks. But a couple of them, you could have put your similes and metaphors. You could have put personification, pathetic fallacy. A lot of people write down rhetorical questions. There's several language features. If you don't ever know everyone, it's okay, don't worry about it. You can get a lot of marks for talking about word classes, and that's why I've been flogging a dead horse talking about it so much, because they're just as valuable as any language feature. The last one, add the apostrophes. Hopefully you can see my cursor. I can make it big like that, but the apostrophes that are missing here, we've got one just in this section here. Hopefully you know where it should go in that word. It's the apostrophe of contraction or omission. You need to think about what this used to be. So don't is short for do not, okay? So you get these two words crashing together, do and not, and we put the apostrophe here where the letter is missing, okay? Also, if you have a little look over here, you've got Daniel's pen, okay? So there's another apostrophe. Hopefully you know where that goes. So we need to put an apostrophe in here to show that Daniel owns the pen, okay? We can't just walk around saying Daniel pen, Daniel pen. We need to put the apostrophe in S to show that Daniel owns that pen. I'll do some more work in the classroom with you on that. It's easier with a whiteboard sometimes. The only time we wouldn't put it there before the S is if the word already ends with S, but we're going to come to that in future weeks, okay? So let's take a look at what we're doing here, okay? So you may have come across the concept of tap before. Tap's really important to make sure that you're doing the right thing for your transactional task, really. And if you get that writing task mixed up, I don't know, you write a speech instead of a letter, it can be a little bit of an issue when it comes to your grades, okay? So the first thing we have to do is we need to tap that text, okay? So tap stands for the following. Type, okay? So there's a large amount of different types of text you could get in your GCSE exam, but here are some of the main ones up on the screen. You could get an article, you could get a speech, you could get a letter, you could get an information guide, you could get travel writing, a report or a review. Unfortunately, I only get you in the classroom for a year, and I'd love to get you longer, but sometimes what I tend to do, different teachers have different opinions on this, but I would look to maybe teach a little bit more articles, speeches and letters, because they seem to be the ones that have came up since the new 901 GCSE has started. So they've come up with a bit of a higher frequency, but I'm not going to be one of those teachers that tries to guess what comes up. I think that's a bit futile sometimes. So we will be covering everything, but I think articles, speeches and letters will be the ones that we cover more closely, and information guides as well. So first of all, you need to work out which of those they're asking for, which is normally quite straightforward. The next thing is the audience, which isn't as straightforward, to be honest. So you might be writing to a formal audience, using the Queen's, using posher language. You might be trying to impress someone. It might be a formal letter to an employer. You might be more informal, so you might be looking with informal language, I don't know, giving a speech to your peers, someone you can be a little bit more laid back with. You might need to think about the age. Who am I writing this for? Okay, you probably won't want to be using kind of slang and modern tech lingo with an audience of pensioners. It might not be the best idea, and you get a mark based on how you've kind of directed your language towards the audience that they've been asked for in the task, okay? Unfortunately, in the exam, I wish they did, but they don't. They don't directly say this is for this or age or this kind of audience. You sometimes have to kind of translate it. And then lastly, purpose. This is an important one because each purpose has a specific type of language feature or style of writing that you need to kind of stick to, all right? So we're going to take a look at writing to argue today, but there's writing to persuade, writing to inform, to explain, review, and there's some more as well, okay? So if you use the same language features for writing to persuade as you do to inform, you're not going to get all of those marks for directing it towards the right audience or purpose, okay? So, what I want to have a little look at now, okay, it's quite hard to see these, so I might zoom in for you. I want you to kind of attempt, I'll give that away a little bit, attempt to tap the following writing tasks. So the good thing about this presentation software is I can zoom in if I need to, okay? So write a text for a speech you will give to your peers about an important person in your life. So if we were going to look at that one, okay, have a little think, what is the type going to be? It's pretty straightforward, the type, isn't it? It's going to be a speech, okay? The audience, as you can see there, it's going to be to your peers, okay? So you're going to maybe use slightly more laid back language, something a bit more familiar. The purpose with this one, on the mark scheme, it came up as argue and persuade, but I think there's elements in that task of writing to inform as well. So, I mean, just because you slightly mix up argue and persuade doesn't mean you're going to get a grade 3. Sometimes there's hybrids as well, where it's a bit explain and inform or argue and persuade, okay? The next one, if I just zoom in slightly there, write an article for a magazine with the title Ups and Downs of Relationships, okay? I'll come to these bullet points in a little bit of these tasks. This does not mean, this is not a functional skills exam, so please you don't write a paragraph for each one of those bullet points. They are just suggestions to get you thinking about what to write. You should be planning your own argument and planning your own subsections, okay? That's where the big marks are, okay? So please don't just do a paragraph on each one, even if a teacher's told you to do that before. So the ups and downs of relationships, we're looking there at an article, okay? We're gonna have a little practice at articles this week. You'll need your titles, your subheadings, but we'll come to that in a little bit. The audience type, well, at the end of the day, it's a magazine, so the audience type, it's a public audience. You may think that if it's someone writing an article about relationship advice, that would, I don't know, put you maybe slightly younger or in the 20s. But really, it can be read by anyone. So with it being a public audience and it being an informal magazine, the onus is on you to make it entertaining. You don't particularly have to make a letter applying for a job entertaining, but you do need to make a speech or an article that's being read by the public engaging and entertaining. I'm going to show you some language features with our dual coding later on that can do that in an effective way. And lastly, purpose. That one came up as a writing to argue, okay? So, you are building an argument for the ups and downs of relationships, okay? Our last one there, okay, so the type is a speech. I haven't zoomed in there. As you can see here, a speech, again to peers. It seems pretty popular that peers come up, so if you're not sure what peers means, people of your same age, of your college group maybe. The next thing, the audience, yes, is peers, and then finally the purpose. It's to inform and advise, that one. Luckily, if you are looking the task, you can see it says essential advice, so sometimes it'll give you little hints as to the purpose, okay? We're not doing writing to advise today, we will do in further weeks though, so we're just going to focus with arguing and writing articles today, but we'll come to that in a bit. Okay, so now how can we use language in our transactional writing? Well, I'm going to take a look at something with you today, okay, and I'm going to use a little bit of something called dual coding. It might not particularly work very well from the home office here, but I'm going to try my best, okay? So the premise of dual coding is to mix information and images in an effective way, okay? for some reason, when you draw an image, it's helping your memory in a really effective manner. It's almost like those images kind of put a little tattoo on your brain of what the information should be next to it. So when we take a look, and I'm sure in English you've done several acronyms like, you know, PEE and TAP and things. I know we get a lot of them in English, and sometimes all those numbers all those letters get mixed up. So dual coding is sometimes a really good way to kind of break through that and try and I don't know, do it in a more original way. So you just need to give me a moment where I find a little bit of a board pen. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you something called the persuader. Now, most people in school use something called deforest. You might be familiar with that for your writing to persuade or your language features in that. The persuader, I think, is really valuable, and you might be thinking, oh, you're giving me a new one. But it's really valuable because it's kind of a bit more tailor-made to the new 901 GCSE, and it gives us some different language features that we maybe haven't used before and can make you stand out from the rest. So what I'll do, so the premise of dual coding is to write down the information and then next to it draw an image that's going to represent that. And you can do your own, you don't have to use the ones that I'm going to draw on here. And by the way, my drawing skills are terrible, so don't laugh at me. I can't even see you laughing at me because it'll be the other end of a computer, okay? So let's watch these as we go up, and we'll think of images we can draw next to it to try and cement it in our memory, okay? So the first one up is, well, first of all, just write down the side of your page, persuader, like so, okay? So if you just scribble that down, I'll give you a few moments to write that down. And the persuader is great because not only does it help you think about the language features for two different purposes of writing, but it also gives us like a toolbox or a list of language features that you can use for the reading side when you're looking for language and writing about language too. So it's like it's got kind of like it's double the meaning for your English studies. So I really would I put some effort into getting this memorized, okay? So the first language feature you might want to use in transactional writing, personal pronouns, okay? So basically write down personal pronouns, then next to it, you're looking to maybe draw a little bit of an image that might represent it. So I don't know, let me keep that on the screen. You might want to write personal pronouns, then next to it, I don't know, person. So you can maybe do a picture of a little stick man or something, like so. I wouldn't make the pictures too hard to draw. So look how terrible that little stick man is. Don't go over the top or anything. And, you know, put a little circle around that next to the word personal pronoun, okay? The next thing that comes up on the persuader is emotive language. Oh, that's going to be an easy picture, okay? So write down emotive language, then underneath it, I mean, I don't have to, but you can know, we could draw a picture of a heart, okay? You could do a broken heart if you want to be a bit of an emo, okay? Oh my lord, I always realise how terrible I am at drawing when I do this. I'm going to go do like a GCSE art course. My beauty students are all artists, I'm definitely not, okay? So you've got a broken heart, you could just do normal heart if it's easier. The next one coming up on the screen is rhetorical questions. An easy one, okay? So rhetorical questions, write the word rhetorical questions, and then you could do, I don't know, a question mark inside of a bubble maybe, okay? And can you even see it? And maybe do the bubble over to someone's head, because obviously a rhetorical question doesn't require an answer, okay? There you go. So you could do like a rhetorical question, all right? The next one, statistics and facts, okay? Statistics and facts are so important, if I can say the word, are so important to your transactional writing. I'm going to talk about their importance at the end as well. So for statistics and facts, take your choice. You know, what do we use for statistics? Maybe we could do some kind of bringing our maths in and doing a math symbol. Maybe I could do a percentage sign, or you could do like a pound sign or something like that, okay? Underneath that, now this is one that comes up on the persuader that isn't in deforest. Excuse me. And it's using expert quotations. Now you might be saying, hang on a second, Jackson, I don't know statistics off the top of my head. I don't have my mobile phone to pull out and use. I don't know any experts or what they've said, so I can't quote them. The good thing is you can make it all up. You can make it up. So with a statistic, you could say, I don't know, if you're doing an article about trying to, let's think, trying to, I don't know, stop homelessness or persuade people to give money to the homeless, you might say, are you aware that 70% of young people that have been in youth offending have ended up being homeless? Probably not the best one, but you can make them off your top of your head. Are you aware that, maybe not go too high on the percentage so it sounds realistic, are you well aware that 15% of our young people are currently living on the streets? That seems like it could be more realistic. Okay, so it's about you making a judgment. Does this sound real? Because that's the main thing. Expert quotations. I don't know, maybe you're trying to write an article about how unhealthy junk food is. So you say, we spoke to Dr. Sarah McKenna, who stated, and put your quotation marks in, junk food not only affects your weight adversely, it can also shorten your life, end quotation. Your article is going to sound so professional if you do a little bit of that. And to be honest, not a lot of students use expert quotations, so it sets you apart from the rest. Okay. Next one, we've got alliteration and anecdotes. For me, I don't like you to go over the top with alliteration. It comes off as a bit cheesy sometimes, but sometimes alliteration can look good in a title, helping our heroes or something along those lines, or for subtitles or subheadings. For me, anecdotes, you might look at anecdotes and go, oh, well, why would someone's personal stories or anecdotes be useful? Well, when you think about anecdotes, think about it like it's like the case studies. So maybe you can take a case study of a young man who is freezing on the streets and write about his personal story. So if you do it that way, then those anecdotes can start to have some real persuasive value. Next one is description. Just sorry, before we move on, these three here, okay, if you want to shorten it this way, USA, these three language features, they're called, and I want to see if I can move my screen slightly. I think I can. Whoop. These are called our evidence-based language features, and they are so essential, all right? If you can get the persuader memorized, so if you look here, all of these language features, every single one of them in the persuader can be used when you argue and persuade. But when you write into inform, you want to stick to these three middle ones. That's why we've got them in the middle of the persuader, all right? So they're your writing to inform language features. So look how useful it is. It's like hitting two birds with one stone when you memorize the persuader. Now, I'm going to tell you about this later on, but these evidence-based language features, I would like to have one of these in every section when you're writing to argue. So section 1 might have a statistic, section 2 might have an expert, and section 3 might have a case study, but we'll talk about that when we look at the planning stage. So description and imagery is an interesting one in the persuader. Everyone thinks you should only use description when you're writing stories or when you're writing fiction. It's just not the case. You can be nice and descriptive when you're writing non-fiction too. Maybe you're trying to make an argument that, I don't know, mobile phones are bad for our mental health. Okay, that could be the argument. Maybe you can start off with an introduction where you describe this really grey setting with people just staring at the glow of their mobile phones, but write about it like you're writing a story. Boom, what a way to engage someone. What a way to paint a picture and really set them off thinking about your side of a debate. Yeah. Our next one is exaggeration or hyperbole. So going over the top basically, I'm just holding this coffee in my hand, sorry. Going over the top basically, okay, really useful, okay? So let's do that mobile phone example again. Mobile phones aren't just irritating, they are the scourge of the human race, or they sap more time than any other class A drug, okay? Like you're going over the top there saying how bad phones are, but it really is good for impact. And then finally, we end up with two language features. I love these two language features. They really come across as quite engaging. Repetition and the rule of three. Look at any speech from Barack Obama, Martin Luther King, these amazing speakers and orators, they will always use the rule of three, okay? And they won't just say that war is dangerous and depressing. They'll say it's dangerous, depressing, and a sap on our resources. They'll always put things in threes. It really appeals to the memory. Think of all the threes we've got: Three Blind Mice, Three Stooges. For some reason, the human brain loves threes, okay? They stick with us. A good example of that is Winston Churchill. When he gave a speech, you've probably heard of the saying, the idiom, blood, sweat and tears, haven't you? Okay, yeah, well, I put my blood, sweat and tears into it. Well, the original quotation from Winston Churchill was actually blood, toil, sweat and tears. It was in a group of four. But because we love the rule of three and it's so memorable, we've lopped that extra one off. And that's what's remembered: blood, sweat and tears, okay? And then repetition, yeah, repetition can be really useful, okay? Don't go over the top with it, but it can be really useful to drive home a point, okay? So that's your persuader, okay? Just a quick reminder so it doesn't drop there. All those language features can be used when we argue and persuade, so we can use them all in the argument that we're writing today. These three here you need to use in each section, but they're the ones you use when you write to inform. We're going to come back to USA in a future lesson as well. Okay, so today's debate, okay, so we're taking a look today at, yeah, an old man talking about TikTok. Isn't that hilarious? We're going to take a look at TikTok and what's happened recently with the American government, okay? So we're going to take a look at a video, okay? I might pause it a couple of times and talk about it. And as we watch it, I want you to write down the following questions, okay? On the persuader earlier on as well, sorry, as we went, I think obviously I was halfway through and I stopped drawing the pictures slightly. Try and come up with a picture to represent each one of these, okay? So expert quotations could be a picture of a doctor. Your anecdotes and case studies could be like I don't know, could be a suitcase. Your description and imagery, that could be a picture of like a painting or something like that. Your exaggeration, you could, I don't know, do a picture of someone screaming or an arrow going over the top of something. And then rule of three, you could like do 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to do. Make sure you've got those pictures drawn so I can see them for next week, okay? So, sorry, back to today's debate. We're taking a look at TikTok because recently there's been something in the media about Trump potentially banning TikTok. I heard that the ban was supposed to come in place on Sunday, but I think it's been pushed back. So what we're going to debate is, you know, do we think that TikTok should be banned? Are we for or are we against that? Okay. So as we watch this video, I want you to answer the following. So who owns TikTok? Why are the US looking to ban the app? What personal reasons may Trump have for banning the app as well? Okay, so I want to see if my YouTube video works today. Hopefully you've got, there you go. As you're watching this, by the way, the video, you might want to kind of log a few positives and negatives about TikTok as well. So there it is, a creative outlet. Having creativity and making something is really important to happiness and feeling fulfilled. So perhaps that could be one of your sections about why we shouldn't ban it, if that was going to be your side of the debate, okay? Oh, well, I've stopped the video, just bear with me. Just bear with me. It should start off back where it was. I might just let it play this time. Maybe something about getting the message out or communicating could be a positive if you want to scribble that down. So there we have one of the answers to the questions. Hopefully you've scribbled that down, okay? So there's a real issue here with the fact that it's owned by a Chinese company that may be tied to the Chinese government, okay? So let's look on about why that might be linked to this ban in some way. So there's an example. You can see her journalism, and we're going to kind of like look at the same thing as she's using an expert there, okay? And that expert is clearly for the banning of TikTok. You can do similar things with your articles. She's using a politician. You could use a doctor or a nurse or a psychologist. It's about you mimicking and attempting to kind of develop your own voice and your own style of transactional writing. And I think a lot of students don't think they can kind of lend ideas and strategies that you see in real in professional journalism. Of course you can, okay? So we're going to see someone who's a bit more against banning TikTok in a moment, but let's watch on.
I guess what I would say is that the risk with TikTok is not inherently worse than the risk with Facebook because we've seen Facebook get manipulated over and over again, and that Facebook is an American company.
So there's your counter argument. If you're going against banning TikTok, um, you've got the fact that Facebook have had massive data breaches recently, and it might, in your head, be quite rich to you if the Americans are upset or getting annoyed about spying or stealing information. When in 2001, it was proven that the American government were watching people's webcams without their permission. So you might say, well, hang on a second, is this to do with spying or espionage, or is it to do with maybe America frustrated and annoyed that China have a successful social media platform and they want to discredit it? I don't know, and it's your point to argue that. And it's something happened similarly with how Huawei phones, and I can never say that properly, Huawei phones. There was a big conspiracy about the fact that perhaps they might be tracking us or reading our information. Or was it the American government trying to make sure we buy Apple phones instead of Huawei? It's a tough one, but it's your argument to make, okay? I think you've had quite a lot of information through that video on both sides as well, but it's up to you to make your own mind up, because if you're not passionate about something or you don't agree with it, you're going to find it hard to write an article about it, okay? So let's quickly look at those questions we were supposed to be looking at. So you've got who owns TikTok? Yeah, it was a Chinese company, but the Chinese Communist Party, they pretty much have the right to take information from any of those Chinese companies. So if your information is with a Chinese company, a lot of the time it'll also be in the hands of the Chinese government. That's pretty a proven fact. Why are the US looking to ban the app? Yeah, they're talking about it to do with espionage or spying. By the way, if you think it should be banned for other reasons, we can talk about that in a second, okay? It doesn't have to just be about this. And personal reasons, there was a little reference there that Trump gets mocked by people on TikTok, or some young people had the genius idea of attempting to. They took tickets for one of his rallies and they got thousands of them through TikTok, and it meant that lots of people didn't turn up. But I think it seems unlikely. I know he can sometimes be a little bit petty and a bit personal, but I think there's probably something else at play. Okay, so let's have a look. So our transactional writing topic today that we're going to take a look at is the following, okay? So we're going to write an article exploring the idea of banning TikTok, okay? So we're going to think about, are you for or are you against this, okay? So are you for or against the current measures? And how can we develop a strong argument to present your views on the matter? That's what we're going to be taking a look at, okay? So really, I'm going to show you the plan later on, but your article needs 3 subsections, 3 subheadings, and 3 sections. So really, you only need 3 main reasons against or 3 main reasons for that you are going to be able to write about, okay? So let's take a look. You might want to scribble that question down so it's as a title and make it easier for you. So when we tap our writing tasks, okay, sometimes it's good to use a little bit of a mind map. Some people prefer mind maps when it comes to planning. What are the positives and negatives of TikTok? What changes should be made, and what are the dangers of the app? I personally, I'm fine with you using a mind map if you want, but I think sometimes, and we're just going to tap this task, it's actually easier for me just to do a bullet pointed list, and I'm going to show you what that plan looks like. A really simple 3-point plan with a counter argument. And listen, a lot of students try and avoid doing plans, but it's so essential that you do. If you do your plan, okay, yes, it doesn't add in a massive amount of marks, but it just looks fantastic to the marker. And also, if you run out of time, they can see where you are heading with your conclusion. So for instance, if you went straight into the exam to the back with your transactional writing, you wrote the persuader, and then next to that, this easy, simple 3-point plan, you just look like an organised learner who's ready to go and grab that grade 4. So the question, like I've done it in a bit of an exam style here. So write an article exploring the idea of banning TikTok. You could write about the main issues with TikTok and how it has impacted global politics. You could write about why it's controversial, and you could write about the positives and or negatives of banning the social media platform. Now, here's the point I mentioned earlier. This is not a functional skills exam. You are not writing a paragraph for each one of those. If you wrote a paragraph for each one of those bullet points, you are not going to develop a strong argument that you've planned yourself. First of all, it's going to be all over the shop. Issues, why is it controversial? Like, there's no like sequence to that, okay? You're definitely going to touch on those 3 bullet points throughout, but I'm going to show you a simple plan in a moment, okay? So let's have a little look. So obviously you've got the type, audience, and purpose we're thinking about. It's an article, okay? So that's going to require title, subheadings above each section. It's formal. I'd say it's maybe for a more mature reader, but also young people are going to want to read this, so it's a public audience, isn't it? And also, it's to argue slash persuade. You're trying to get people onto your side. You're trying to develop a strong argument. Okay. So, if we take a little look at this and zoom in, okay, top tips I want to look at here. Before we do that, I'm going to zoom into this 5-point plan I was telling you about. So simple to do it. Okay. So all you need is introduction. Write a few words about what that introduction is going to be. Here's a top tip. Choose one of the language features from the persuader. Start with a rhetorical question. Start with a statistic. Maybe start with an anecdote. Start with a piece of description, like I did with the phone thing inside of the train. Now, it's a really good thing to do if you worry about introductions, but really you need to be kind of early on stating what the article is going to be about. But please don't just write, I am writing today too. Doesn't look like a grade 4 style of writing. Okay, you have to be a bit more creative than that. Then you write down what point number 1 is. So let's take this for instance, and I'll run through a few for you because I know it's hard to come up with ideas sometimes. Let's take the negatives. Okay, you've got the spying and espionage thing they've talked about, the stealing of information. Okay, but also you've got other negatives to TikTok. Okay, you can write about them yourself, but we've got, you've got the fact that there's a real incentive with TikTok for it for you to have a public account, because you want everyone to see your videos and your TikToks. And you know what happens when you have social medias that aren't private. You've got predators, you have unusual people online that are watching those videos. And but if you're trying to be an influencer or you're trying to get your things seen, you want to kind of keep it public. So there's all the trappings and safeguarding issues that come with that. You've also got any other negatives. A lot of people in my classes from this week have talked about hate and bullying. Yeah, you're putting yourself out in front of the whole world for negativity to come your way, okay? Maybe a lot of young people aren't matured enough to deal with that kind of negativity. What else could we have for negatives of TikTok? A few people have said that it's massively addictive, and perhaps it's maybe a waste of time when you could be doing something more productive. Okay, you're probably like cringing as I'm saying this, like, no, I love my TikTok, Jackson, shut up. But I'm just giving you some negative ideas. Okay, you might have on the positive side, well, there'll be loads for you. Creativity, being connected to a community, you could do a section on. Being part of a trend. Kind of feeling like you're on the cutting edge of like new music and new dance crazes. That makes you feel kind of like you're up to date with things. A lot of people, and I wasn't aware of this to be honest, you can tell I'm too old for this TikTok stuff, but a lot of people making a lot of money through TikTok, influencers. You might maybe look up to a TikTok influencer or a YouTuber who kind of has a positive message about life. Someone who's going to help you to lead a healthy life, you'd be disconnected from that person perhaps. And then I've had a few people that have just said it's entertainment, it's fun, it's fun. We're in a different age now. We talked about generations, didn't we? Gen Z, like, we don't sit around and watch Coronation Street on a night time. We watch TikTok videos. So like really you're the generation that are going to get impacted if this is banned in the UK as well as in the US, okay? But there's tons more positives that I'll let you try and discuss. I know it's hard to mind map and come up with ideas together when I'm behind a screen, but hopefully I'll give you a few little bits that you can think about. So remember, for articles, you need that title and subheadings. Top tip though, if you're not very good at coming up with subheadings, you could write your section. Maybe you could do a full section on TikTok is fantastic because you could become an influencer and make loads of money. You could write that section, nice little paragraph, okay? Leave a space at the top, and you could put the subheading in afterwards after you've decided what the premise of that paragraph was, okay? So, I don't know, maybe it's a title for an influencer. Maybe you could just put the title as like TikTok famous or something as your subheading, but you can make that decision if you leave a space above the paragraph, okay? So remember, every section, as I said before, needs an evidence-based language feature to really give it sort of like a bit of strength, a bit of like foundational strength to what you're saying. So if you're going to say you could become a millionaire through TikTok, maybe you'd want to use a case study of someone who has. Or maybe you'd want to write down a statistic or something along those lines. Maybe you could write down a certain amount that has been made, okay? So one of those, like an evidence-based quotation as well, you could say we spoke to, and it could be like a specialist. It could be somebody who understands about TikTok, okay? This thing I haven't quite described. So you've got your 3 points backed up with evidence-based language features. Then we get to this counter-argument. You might have an idea of what a counter-argument is, but I call it the some could argue section, okay? So this is your opportunity to bring up the other side of the debate and then tear it down, okay? So if you're going for TikTok, your counter-argument could be something along the lines of, some could argue that TikTok is being used for spying, for espionage, for stealing our data, which could make us unsafe. But that's when you tear it down. So you would turn around and say, but Facebook does that. But our mobile phones do that. Okay? I mean, I don't know if you guys have done this, but have you ever texted about a vacuum cleaner and then 3 or 4 days later you get an Instagram advert about that vacuum cleaner? Like, yeah, something's happening there, isn't it? Okay, so maybe you could say, well, hang on a second, it's personal choice, isn't it? Okay, and then we have a conclusion. Everyone hates writing conclusions. Think about it this way: a conclusion, you need to be thinking about the future in some way. Okay, so got to be future facing. So basically a summary of what you've been writing about, but then also hopefully if we take this into account, we'll be able to continue to develop creative and interesting videos, moving on to the future, and create change in our society. You're thinking about the future, okay? So what we're looking to do now, I will go back to that task so you've got it there to either screenshot or take a photo of, okay? I told you this session wouldn't come up to the full hour and a half, because in the lesson we were going to get to start to write that basically, okay? I've got a little bit of a link to a Kahoot quiz that I'm going to put on Teams as well, so watch out for that. It's a bit of a quiz on word classes. We've been working on those recently. I've set it as a homework, so all you have to do is go to the link that gets posted on Teams. Other than that, it's a shame I can't see you all, okay? But you can ask me questions through Teams. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you again. Hopefully we're looking at next week. I shouldn't be here too long, but it's a good opportunity for you to get used to what my online lessons are going to look like as well. And plus you get to keep hold of this now, this link, and when it gets near at the exam time and we're getting ready to revise for the exams and you're thinking, oh, how long ago was it when we did writing to argue for transactional writing? Let's get that video of that ugly guy again up and get him to harp on about TikTok, okay? So thank you very much. Hopefully I'll see you all soon, and if you can get that work completed, I am looking for you to complete that article this week, okay? Word processed if possible, but handwritten's fine as well. If it's handwritten you can bring it in next week, but I mean word processed will be better. The sooner you get it to me, the sooner I can have a look at it and give you some feedback. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you all soon. Bye now.